Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
The story you just told me at the beginning of this call, that is fascinating. It makes you unique and it makes you understand and have empathy towards your clients. That's super important.
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMade. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Pipkin from Serene Clean. And in today's episode, my guest, Anastasia, is all the way from Washington, and she is the owner of Essence of Clean. And we have been talking back and forth for months now, and she has been a loyal, avid listener to the podcast. And I invited her on because she is about to take the leap into hiring. And she has been in business for years now, very successful, excellent cleaner. And I want to help her through any sticking points or challenges she is still facing when it comes to about to hire. So it's going to be a very informative conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. So Anastasia, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's so good to be here.
So tell us about how your business came to be. What did you do before cleaning? Just give us a little bit of background.
Before cleaning, I had just had my daughter, who is going to be 18 and graduating next month. So it's been that whole journey. So I had been a student and I studied interior design in college, and then I had her a week after I graduated, and then stayed home with her the first 2 years. And she was my last child, so I just wanted to make like the most of every moment, not miss anything. And my husband was a school teacher at the time, and had been nursing her that whole 2 years, and weaning like just wasn't really happening. And I really wanted to kind of like, I was going with the child-led weaning, where you don't like just rip the kid away. It's supposed to be like they decide when to just kind of like let it fall off, and it wasn't happening.
He's like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. So I was starting to feel a little trapped. And then my husband got off school for the summer because he was a teacher. And I'm like, here, you take the kid. I'm going to go get a part-time job because I need a little space. And then she needs a little space. So, that'll help. And so, that's when I started cleaning. My mother-in-law had kind of talked me into it previously, because those couple years at home, my house was like immaculate and I was always clean. There was like nothing left to clean. And I would go to her house and start tidying up when we'd be visiting, and she didn't really like that. I don't know why. And so she actually said, have you ever thought about doing this like professionally? And I'm like, ew, no. Why would I want to clean other people's houses?
Right.
But she had a cousin, older lady, who was retiring from a long time cleaning business that she'd had. She's like, well, my cousin Joanne is getting ready to retire, and she just has a handful of client stuff that she's kept. And, she's looking for someone to hand them off to. I could recommend you. I'm like, I don't think so. So she gave her my number anyway. And Joanne called me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess. So I took on, it was only like 3 or 4 clients that she had left. And I took them on. I'm like, okay, it's a nice little part-time thing I can do. And I started cleaning with them. And then that was in May, the month my daughter turned 2. And by August, I was like full time. Like I didn't even mean to be, just like word of mouth. It just exploded. And I was so exhausted. And yeah, it was crazy. And I was making $1,000 more than my husband was in his salary. And it's like, wow, this is crazy. So like once I caught up with the like physical, adjustment, it's like, this is pretty cool, because we hadn't had extra money ever in so long, because we were living off the one income, a teacher's salary.
Yep.
So you can imagine, in Oklahoma at the time. So I think it was the second to the lowest paid state for teacher salary at the time. So yay.
Yeah, teachers are so underpaid everywhere,
Oh
but I
my
would imagine in
gosh.
those states it's
Yeah.
even worse.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah. So, the extra money was really great. We could finally do things, breathe a little, buy some things for the kids, go out to dinner, it was really great at first. And then my husband actually joined me a couple years later because he was sick of teaching and just the bureaucracy and a lot of things that were happening in the state of Oklahoma. It wasn't super friendly towards the supporting education. Anyway, he was just tired of it, so he decided to join me so we could take on more work and make even more money. And so that's what we did, and we have been doing this together now for 14 years.
Wow.
We bring in a little over 100K a year. We only work 4 days a week. So we have every Wednesday off. So we have 2 days on, a day off to rest or take care of appointments and then work 2 more days and then have weekends off. So it's a nice schedule. And it really worked out when my daughter was younger and in school. At that time, we would be off at 2:45 every day, go pick her up and not have to work. I mean, and that was part of what I loved about, is the flexibility. It was, really great. But I didn't always love the work, and cleaning other people's houses isn't as satisfying as cleaning your own. I mean, it has a certain satisfaction, in a job that's complete, but it's different than doing your own. I don't know. So I've struggled over the years and actually like feeling that and feeling at times that falling into that like pit of inferiority complex, like being seen as, you know, this person's just a maid or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
so I've really struggled with that. And then comments from like, the family or my mom going, "Are you still cleaning houses?" But then on the other hand, it's, really, really helped our family and it's been so flexible and really great. We make our own schedule. Our clients are fabulous. We've been in Bellingham 9.5 years, almost 10. And, we have one client that's been with us since the second month we were here, almost 10 years, and they've referred so many people to us. And we have lots of other clients who've been with us 3, 4, 5, 7 years. So it's just, it's really been a blessing. And lately I'm trying to see it for more of a blessing than a curse, and not have those negative feelings. But I've really struggled, honestly, throughout the years of this business. But yeah, and so, there's been times I just wanted to like close up everything and forget it. And, I tried to push my husband to go get a teaching job again because in Washington, they make like double what they made in Oklahoma. Of course, the cost of living, it's relative. But, I'm like, can you just go do that again and we can get out of this, But here we still are. And,
What brought you guys to Washington?
Oh, well, we were in Boulder, Colorado. We were only in Tulsa for the first 2 years, and then we moved to Boulder. And my husband actually pursued a master's degree there. And then we were in Boulder for 4 years, and then we moved to Washington. Because we came on vacation here, and just totally fell in love. And I'm like, we've got to move here. So a couple years later, we moved here, and we just love it so much. Yeah,
Good on
it's
you.
gorgeous.
That is something a lot of people want to do. So amazing. Kudos to you guys for actually following that.
Yeah, and each of these times when we went from Tulsa to Boulder and from Boulder to here, we had to restart the business from scratch. So, we made it, so
Out of
it's,
curiosity, how did you, was it the same, like, can you tell me and describe how did you get a full schedule based off of starting over in a new space where you didn't have that social proof from other clients? What did you do for that?
Yeah. Well, I did have a website, a different website at the time, which we thought was great at the time. And then when I was redoing my website these last few months, I anytime I had to go to it, I'm like, oh, it's so cringy.
That's how,
But we thought it was
I mean, I
great at
feel
the
that way
time.
about mine. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing a website redesign and I think you always
Oh
feel that
gosh.
way. You know,
Yeah,
it's like looking
yeah.
at haircuts or like when I look at
Huh.
like my pictures from high school and that was when really heavy eyebrows were in and it looks like I
Oh,
took a Sharpie to my eyebrows. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's how I feel about websites now.
yeah, yeah. But we see, we didn't have the Google My Business. I don't even know how new that is, the Google My Business, but I was dumb and never set one up until couple of months ago. Like, because I really didn't plan on taking this further, and we had a core group of clients, we were comfortable. It's like, I don't need all that. So we
Mhm.
had our basic website, and we had a little review feature on there. And we had collected we had reviews all the way back from Tulsa and Boulder. So each time we moved, we had our core reviews, which we would also print out a handful of them as reference letters,
Yeah.
and that we would show people when we would go to bid their house. And yeah, so we had a little bit. We did start the Facebook page before we moved from Boulder to here, and have people review us on there. So we had a little bit of social
Hmm.
proof. Um, but we're only looking to get like 20 clients. So, it wasn't difficult. And at the time, we would get our clients solely off advertising on Craigslist and maybe putting a few flyers on doors in neighborhoods that we liked. And
It
it
worked.
worked, and then talking to people at our kids' school and, stuff like that. And that's pretty much how we got our clients. I mean, and then word of mouth, once we had some clients and they were really happy with us,
Mm.
inevitably they recommend you. So you can see my cat.
I know. I love your kitty. I'm
Going
watching.
around.
I'm watching them. I'm sure mine will wander in here at some point. That's why I have to leave the door cracked because otherwise she'll just scratch at
Yeah,
it.
she's going, what's going on? The curtains aren't
Yeah.
usually closed.
Yeah. I'm so happy that to kind of hear how that happened because it's a perfect instance of there's a lot of ways to get clients that don't include, paying for advertising or anything like that. Even I think people are like, oh, it's such a saturated market. And, if you're just trying to get your schedule filled at this time, there is some great avenues to do so. And yeah,
Mhm.
I'm so happy you said kind of talking to the parents at your kids' schools, like being a yapper and just talking about what you do, that works so well. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm also happy that you touched on those kind of feelings of judgment or being seen as beneath, because I think those feelings are super valid based on like society's views of
Mhm.
the cleaning industry. And I would say that we all kind of, I mean, at least from my experience, we all have that chip on our shoulder of, I've got something to prove because I know how cleaning is seen and I don't I don't want people to see me as beneath them, because of how
Yeah.
they view
Yeah.
that this is menial, almost like servant's work or why would you choose
Right.
this
Right.
type of thing. And I think keeping in mind that, we have the capabilities, well, all of the things that you described of why you love it, like the flexibility, just the ease, the satisfaction. Like there's so many people who absolutely loathe their jobs who, are going to have an early heart attack because they hate their job so much, but the title's good. Right. And we maybe
Yeah.
respect that title in society, even looking at like doctors, like they have really high suicide rates, and it's such high
Right.
debt and all of these things. And so the reason I'm even talking about this is just because just to acknowledge that we all have that experience where we're feeling judged. And for myself, like pushing the business has really helped kind of soothe, my ego. Cause that's what it is, my ego
Mhm.
is upset that people view me in a way that I don't agree with, meaning I don't see myself as beneath. And obviously you don't either because we're not, but it's just how people see the industry. And so that's where like really leaning into the professionalism and frankly, like there's money in dirty work. And obviously like you guys have been able to make a really killer living. So kudos to you. I mean, you've done so many things well, just being like your guys is only solo cleaners or just the two of you, like that is truly impressive. So I guess now that you're looking at hiring, what's prompting you to take it further? Because you guys are making good money, you have this life balance. Why do you want to hire? Just out of curiosity.
Well, like I said, I've gone through the back and forth of trying to be grateful for this job and everything that it gives us, and wanting to just throw it out the window. So it was actually my husband that stumbled across some videos online. I don't know if it was ZenMade videos or something else, but then quickly landed on ZenMade, YouTube videos, and saw it was about the potential of a cleaning business, like a full-fledged cleaning business. And he showed me, and he had been dropping hints for the last 6 months, and like, yeah, I don't think so. I have no interest in ever doing that. I just want to put in our time until we don't have to, and then just, and so he kind of started, pushing me in that direction, and I started watching the videos, and I'm like, okay. And then the more I watch the videos, I'm like, well, I feel really stupid now that I have carried this far and not, taken it for the opportunity it was, just putting my head down and doing the grind every day, and waiting till the day it was going to be over somehow, and not, and so then I felt really dumb that, all these years, and I could have, really been a lot further along and not still been filled. But, you got to do what you can. When you know better, you do better.
Well, and
But,
it's not, it's not stupid. It served you guys perfectly in your life. And
Yeah.
honestly, like you've just even over the past couple months of us communicating, like you have been doing this building of foundation where a lot of us, when we start and immediately start hiring, I mean, obviously you have to pull the trigger at some point, but we make so many mistakes because we pull that trigger too hastily and we're not prepared. Even, having all of the employee documents in place, which you already have, you're doing these things, you're thinking about training, you're thinking about pay, where so many in the industry, I think, are like, oh, I'll just get a helper, I'll pay him cash and, whatever. It's really casual. And I just don't see, like, if this is our business, there's nothing casual about it. This is, if we're going to do a business, I just don't see it that way. So you guys, I mean, and I just love even just how there's several things that have been very teacher coded from what you've described to me of how you guys are setting things up. Like your husband's background is really influencing a lot of how you guys are doing that as well. So I commend you for doing all of this building blocks. So can you describe some of the things that you've been putting into place in preparation for hiring? What do you guys have in place so far that you're feeling good about?
Just for the hiring?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've done all the legal stuff already. I set up the business appropriately. We had never even had an LLC before. So I did all that, registered for an S Corp. And then with all that, like kind of just going down the line, I'm now registered with the Labor and Industry whatever department. State of Washington does its own workman's comp. You can't get it through like a third party provider. So, and then I'm registered with the unemployment security. So for all of those payroll tax kind of things. So I'm set up and ready to go with all of those. And then I have the account with Gusto. So I'm kind of set up in all those like pay areas. We've worked out the pay schedule and a incentive program for the employee, like a performance incentive where they will get, a base pay and then get extra bonus pay based on their performance, which will come a couple of ways. One, they would get $100 bonus at the end of the month if they had a perfect attendance. So that's something, of course, we always want to be able to encourage because of the call-offs and no-shows and stuff. And then we were going to put into place a quality control program, one where we are going to go out ourselves once on every employee each month and look over a house and do, the rubric that my husband created of all of the areas, and it'll have a score. And so they can earn $100 bonus on that, up to $100 bonus depending on how they scored. And then we were going to ask clients to do a couple on an employee in a month. And I'm not sure how that's going to go over, like if clients will want to participate, but and I'm still trying to figure out what best is the incentive for the client to put in that time. But yeah, so that the employee can have an opportunity to have 3 of the quality control assessment bonuses plus the attendance bonus. So that's up to $400 extra in a month. And then other bonuses that they can have, whether it's for referrals or for reviews that mention them and things like that. So we're still nailing down our training program. We kind of have the general idea, but we don't have it all fully assembled yet. But we have all of our paperwork done, most of which is the stuff I got from you, and then we've modified, and their kits and all of these things. Yeah, it just feels like so much.
It is, but I mean,
the orientation and
it is.
Yeah,
it really is. But most people have none of these things in place when they start hiring. So, like, this is amazing, and I'm so happy you're really thinking of like the incentivizing of the behavior you're trying to encourage, because obviously we can come down on them and kind of have negative reinforcement. That's definitely a method, but positive reinforcement works in so many wonderful ways. So I'm happy that you're really thinking about this, or even thinking like, well, how would this benefit the client? Even giving them a little cleaning discount, like, hey, would you be willing to fill out this survey? So the service ratings would be useful as well, but I'm almost thinking I would do a more robust, like even a Google form of check this, check this, check this, because it is tying to, a pretty hefty bonus. So, kind of like you described it as a secret shopper program, almost like, because the
mystery shopper. Yeah,
the mystery shopper. The cleaner won't know what's coming, which I really
they'll never know what house they're getting assessed at, so they've got to be on top performance all the time because they never know when it's coming.
Exactly. And you could ask things about professionalism. Are they on time? How is their appearance? How do they smell? Literally all of those things, we want to, check, because based on experience, cleaners will show up smelling like they just smoked a pack of Marlboros or marijuana or whatever. And it's just not a good look for your company, regardless of how we feel about those things personally. People don't want smelly folks in their house cleaning. So these are perfect examples of things you could ask the clients. So I really like that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, the funny story, my client that's been with us for almost 10 years, her name is Lisa. And when she first called us, she didn't know who we were or anything like that. But on the phone, before I even went out to her house, I bid houses in person still. And she said, well, now, I don't know how to say this, but I know it's legal now and everything here, but I would really prefer that there be no partaking on my property. It was so funny.
Oh, that's cute. That's really cute. And also, of course.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Yeah, it's interesting. So in Wisconsin, it's still illegal. And I know at like most places, if a workplace incident happens, like drug testing immediately, because if they're under the influence, your insurance wants to know that. So it can definitely affect things. But I love that. So I think that you have so many mechanisms already put into place or really thought out, like how are we going to handle XYZ? So you're kind of, I feel like, ready to go. So for hiring, like what's the holdup now? What is the internal blocker for you of why can't I do this?
Well, 2 things. One, just all the employee difficulties, the no-shows and the quality, all those things, and having made a name and a reputation for our business, it's really difficult to like put that in somebody else's hands. And, okay, so a secret. We actually did take on helpers one time, about 8 years ago. It was about 2 years after we moved here. And we'd always had more inquiries that we could handle. And so we would keep a waiting list. And, we had our full schedule and most people wouldn't budge. So it's like, okay, well, sorry, you can go on a waiting list. And there was a mom at my kid's school who had just gotten divorced and really needed work. And I went, well, you could work with us and I could take on some more clients, so I wanted to help. And we thought, well, this might be a way we can start expanding. And, we had no clue what we were doing. And so we had no preparation at all, none of this stuff. And, we took her on, tried to give her like a proper training, and we went ahead and hired another person too, so that we could launch them after training to be their own team, because we worked as a team and we really liked that format. So we took 2 people on, trained them for a couple of weeks, did all that. We did it around after Christmas time because we'd gotten bonuses from our clients, like, well, we have some extra money that we can put into the training. So let's do this. Who knows what this year will bring. And and it ended up being a nightmare. We spent a couple weeks training, which was kind of a hassle, but whatever. And then we sent them out. The younger girl quit pretty quickly. And then the other lady, Claire, was on her own. She's like, well, I didn't sign up to be on my own. And, I couldn't get another person quick enough, so she's cleaned houses on her own, brand new and all this stuff. And I think she was with us about a month and then she quit and said, it's just too much. It's too much work. And, and then she claimed unemployment. And I went, wait, can she even do that? She only worked for a month. Yeah. No, but they approved it. And I'm like, how is that even possible? And so then I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, now we're in, all this paperwork nightmare. And I can't believe this I was just trying to help somebody out.
Oh, you got burned. You got burned and your heart's scared to love again.
I kind of feel like we got used, actually. I think maybe it was a little bit of a plan, but, we spent a couple $1,000s training these ladies and, out of our own money and all this happened. And, we'd had, of course, a few call-offs during that time that we had to scramble for. And it's like, oh my gosh, this just isn't worth the stress. So that's when I said, we're never doing that again. That's just crazy. So, having that firsthand experience and then hearing all of the stories from all of you guys and all of the podcasts and videos I've watched, and I'm like, gosh, I don't know if we can handle all of that. Our life is pretty nice and, just goes right now. So I don't know if we can handle all the stress and the call-offs and, oh my gosh. So, that's a huge hesitation and just being scared to put our life into this whole different stressful level. And then the money, honestly, because we're in the same spot now, we're taking a few $1,000s that we saved from our Christmas bonuses again and to set aside to launch this. And my fear is, again, we don't pick the right people or they don't stick and we've spent money training them and most of them leave. Then what, and then what happens, and we don't have the money anymore to just go get a new batch of people. So it's just I've been trying to set everything up and do all the research and get everything perfect. And you'll say I'm in analysis paralysis. And I know that, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make a bad impression on any employees we might hires. So, I'm just trying to get everything perfect.
Well, and that anxiousness is really valid because, yeah, I mean, honestly, my first hires were a nightmare, and it is what it is. But I also didn't have all of these kind of things set in place. I also didn't have, a decade plus of cleaning experience. So, I wasn't training well. I was just, like, here you go, like sink or swim kind of thing. I had no ability to filter or vet. I had no systems in place for hiring, meaning like group interviewing or anything like that to see if people were, honestly, for me, I was super young when I started. So I had no BS meter at all. Like anybody could just pull the wool over me and I'd be like, oh, you seem so great. I was so easily wooed. So, I think that even though you've gone through that experience, hopefully it has allowed you to know what you're looking for. And I think, it's such a cliche thing that we hear all of these, podcasts say of really getting clear on like the core values. But I think utilizing ChatGPT to the fullest and like, these are the traits that I am looking for and that are really important to me. Can you please create interview questions that help me discern if somebody has these specific traits? And then asking for examples on things. And honestly, what I would say is I would do huge group interviews to vet people. Do not waste your time with any individual person until they can at least show up there. And then we do a second round of interviews to help, filter down, because I think people are really good at BSing during interviews, and I also think in your case, because the finances are such a concern of losing money, I would train at a significantly lower rate and then you're wanting to pay pretty darn high. Remind me what your guys' pay scale you're planning on for.
In May, our minimum wage goes up to $18.66 an hour here. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. It was literally only $16.66 in December, and they did a $2 increase this year, partly in January and part in May. It's gone up about $1 every year for the last, 8 years. No, maybe not 8, but several years. Well, probably since COVID when everything started going up. But yeah, so it's going to be $18.66. We were going to start our pay rate for training at $19 an hour for basically the first 30 days, where our training period was going to be 2 weeks, like hands-on, but then the other 2 weeks were like a highly supervised period. And then after that, we were going to jump it up a couple dollars an hour. We're still solidifying exactly which number we want to land on, but something like that, like $21 an hour until they hit the 3-month mark. And of course, they've got to meet the other, qualifications and that they're performing well and all that before they automatically get a raise. And then at 3 months, they might jump up to, $22.50 or $23 an hour, something like that. But we were hoping to cap out around $25 an hour if someone had been there like 6 months, a year, and then they have the potential for all those bonuses on top of that. So where our literal pay rate out of our side might end up being up to $29 or $30 an hour as it stands, but then with all the payroll taxes, and my husband has a whole chart he's configured, would go up to the $35 an hour, which is 50% of the $70 an hour that we would be basing our customer rates on. So yeah, so we're trying to pay them as well as we can.
Oh my gosh, I just can't believe, well, in all of these numbers, I'm so happy that like we're having this conversation, because all of these numbers are so highly specific to where your business is, because none of this would fly where I am, but also our minimum wage is $7.25. So not that anybody pays that, but our starting wage is $16 an hour. Ours top out at 25, and we just increased it to that. Obviously, lots of bonuses and benefits and things, but it's just so fascinating hearing what different parts of the country are, and even those rates that you're talking about of it. The goal is to make around that. Like that is amazing, because that's what you've been able to do, right? With new clients, is that's what they're averaging out at.
new clients averaging out at 70 an hour.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah, and
it's
that's just
incredible.
very recent, very recent.
Mhm.
Just these last few months since I've been learning all of this, and
Mhm.
went, wow, we are so underpaid. And again, and we're veterans in the arena, and we were only making $40 an hour ourselves up until January. So it's like, wow. And I think we still we carried that Midwest mentality with us,
Mhm.
and the prices of things, especially my husband, because many times I would mention, we need to do a rate increase. He's like, oh, no, that's so expensive. Because he really had that, Oklahoma prices mentality, and things are just so much less there. But
Mhm.
yeah, we were underselling ourselves really
Well,
badly
I
for
mean,
years.
you are doing something successfully that so many people, I mean, if I can't even imagine giving that price, like that, like is inspirational to me that you are doing that. Like you're making me want to like go back to my managers right now and say 60 an hour because we're at 55 right now. And I'm like, starting at 30, I had the same mentality as your husband of nobody's even going to pay that. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So of course, if I'm not valuing it, nobody else is going
Right.
to. And slowly doing those price increases over the year. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy because that is going to allow you to actually be an attractive employer in your particular market. Because I mean, when the minimum wage is that means everybody, like, why would somebody go clean, right? And so
Yeah.
for you guys being able to offer those types of incentives, and then even what you described in the beginning of our call of what attracted you, that flexibility, that's going to, attract a lot of people. And I think you have a really good plan in place. It's just that pulling the trigger and picking the right people. You're going to make mistakes, people bamboozle. And, to get kind of esoteric here, everybody leaves at some point, everybody does.
Yeah.
So just how can we, make as much as possible out of them while they're here. So I totally understand that you're nervous, but there are good people out there. We just have to we got to see a lot of people, to find the diamonds in the rough. So, honestly, like, I feel like you are very, very prepared. It's just nerve wracking. So honestly, what I would think to do when it comes to like managing the call outs that are inevitable, obviously these incentives to have good things, good attendance, good performance, that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, sometimes it just doesn't matter. The goal is to get cleanings off of you guys so that you are the backup basically, so that it's not like you're basically double booked in the manner of you have your clients and now you're booking cleaning clients on these new hires and then they don't show up, and now what do you do? So
yeah, because we have a full schedule right now ourselves.
yeah,
So
exactly. You're going to
yeah,
have some pushback on your current clients getting off of you. Absolutely.
yeah.
But just as long as you guys are being really psychotic about the quality control, they will get used to it. And just knowing that, these people are being trained by us and we are checking on them, and they're most likely to be the most honest with you as your loyal clients. So I know that that's going to be a struggle, but that I would personally try to do that first before going to new waitlisted clients. Because, and also your current clients are going to be more forgiving than a new person. You know what I mean? So, is there any clients at the top of your head that you're like, I think I could offboard them, and if it doesn't work out, you can always bring them back on, remember? Because I had to do that several times with
Yeah.
clients when my first employees were terrible. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that that's going to work really well. Let's see what else. I know you had asked about, your website marketing, worrying about kind of like the lead aspect of it. Can you talk to me about that a little bit?
So here recently, we actually lost a couple of our own clients for having our nice stable base,
Yeah.
and which was a little unexpected because usually the losses come in January and February, and we sailed through that. Went, wow, this year we didn't lose anything, so that's great. And then we had one in March and one, well, right at the end of the March. Right, days before their next cleaning. I'm like, oh no, just, their own circumstances.
Yep.
and that was a really large client, our largest. And so that was a big ouch. So now that unfortunately has shifted the focus away from the business at this most immediate moment into, oh my gosh, we've got to fill these 2 spots because our budget is dependent on it. And normally they would fill really quickly, and it hasn't happened. So now I'm, mildly freaking out, like, oh no, and maybe this is a sign, and we're not ready, and we're
Not
trying to take on too much.
You're fine.
Yeah, but I've been a little surprised because now I do have the Google My Business, and I've been pushing for reviews. We only have 19, but they're 19 5-star reviews right now. And it's like, well, it's pretty decent.
Well, and I see they're coming in. I checked before our call, and yeah, you're doing a great job there. And just, continually pushing any former clients, any current clients, getting character reviews, since you guys are so entrenched in the community. Anybody who just knows that you guys are good people, though, that's a really great avenue. But you're doing really good considering you just got the Google My Business. So I love to see that. That's gonna really help.
Yeah, it's great. But on our website we have the ZenMaid booking form, which we don't do as an automatic booking. We do it as a request for estimate. And they get their little price on the form, which we put on the disclaimer at the top. This is a ballpark figure.
Yep.
We'll come out and assess and give you your customized estimate. But I've wondered if, and that form is based on our new $70 an hour rate. And, the prices, still look so high to me because I wasn't used to those figures, and what I would relate to this size house or that size house. And so I've feared that, okay, well, maybe we took it too high, and, now people can see the price without ever talking to us. And maybe that's like, making it harder. I don't know. Because all of that is new, from the way we did it before. So, I've been surprised that we hadn't gotten more leads recently. We got one lead that I actually turned down. It was one of the first ones I've turned down because we decided to make a minimum 1,200 square feet. And it was a lady with a really tiny place. And honestly, well, I ended up going out because she lied. I think people do that a lot on the forms. But I think she said it was a little bit bigger than it was, but it was just tiny, and it was a little bit of a nightmare. So actually, put into practice turning something down instead of taking every job that comes your way, which was very uncomfortable, especially in person. But and she got a little perturbed.
Yep.
But I'm feeling a little anxious that we haven't gotten more leads than we have. I did just put an ad on Nextdoor. Are you familiar with that?
Yep.
They have it like everywhere, which seems to be really big around here. And I've actually gotten previous customers off of there just from people talking to each other. So I ran an ad with them recently, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so, when we're having trouble filling our just 2 little spots ourselves, and then we're thinking about expanding and needing to fill a lot of spots for employees, I'm like, well, gosh, I don't know. So, and this is the time of year where things start to pick up, spring, and people are looking into that again. So, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit nervous about that.
Sure.
Yeah, about the reality of like, okay, if we had already hired people and then we couldn't get them work, well, gosh,
Yeah. No, I totally understand. So I'll make some suggestions based off what you just described. And I have your website pulled up. One, obviously I've mentioned before, I love your branding. For you guys who haven't, seen her website or even your email signature, it's like this ethereal, this lavender color, and you just look like this, fairy princess or something. Like, it's very pretty. I love your branding. It's gorgeous and very like cottage-core calming, that's
That's me.
yeah. No, it is. Even just talking to you, I'm like, oh, your voice, like, gosh, you should do audiobooks. So that your vibe is very much congruent with your branding, which is excellent. So when I look at number one, let's talk about the booking form having pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I would turn that off. Because I think that what is happening when you're saying like you're not even getting Google reviews and things, you're not getting leads. They're probably getting to the website, they're getting sticker shock, and you're not capturing that email. We want them filling out the form so that we can actually sell to them, we can pursue them, we can do our follow-up. And if they're seeing that price and getting scared because, that's what happens is the sticker shock, then you're not having an opportunity to actually explain why, what makes us different and get them into your lead funnel, basically. So the first order of events, I would say, is to turn off the pricing on the booking forms. And this is basically just an intake form. And then now at least you have their email and your phone so you can pursue them. Number one. So I think that would immediately help get you some actual leads so you can sell to them. Number two, I think that the website is pretty, but you're above the fold. The first thing that I see when I open it up, there is no clear call to action. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing because it's just this, pretty picture of the lavender. It has your tagline, Ecolux House Cleaning Services in Bellingham, Washington. And I don't know what I should do. There's nothing enticing me. There's nothing pulling me. So I really think that you should have a very clear call to action here, which is get your free estimate, right? Even your content, on your top bar, there is no get a quote button or anything. You have all of your, home, about, services, gallery. There's a contact button, but there's no get a quote button. So even if I wanted to click, I'm not sure where to click in order to get a quote. So I think that what people see right when your website loads, that's super important. So scrolling down on the homepage, I like your little slogan. You've got some social proof in the form of testimonials. What you don't have is you anywhere. So you need to be on that homepage, and your origin story is what's going to sell. And this is what I encourage us all to do, is really explore what our unique perspective is of, okay, like what the story you just told me at the beginning of this call, that is fascinating. It makes you unique and it makes you understand and have empathy towards your clients. It's going to make them feel heard. It's going to make them connect to you, and so if you can, look at this, you're doing this podcast right now. So if you can just record a quick about us, what they can expect, you put that right there on the homepage, that's going to do things that your competitors are not doing, right? Because I'm just not feeling anything from the homepage, and it's not really clear how you're going to, solve my pain. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of copywriting things, and it's very pretty. I love the branding colors. I think that this is simply there's no strong call to action, and there's no strong emotional response from the website visitor. So those are the things that I think you should really focus on the homepage. You have your core values, which is awesome. You have your, the difference, but I have to scroll down pretty far on the page to get to it. People don't really like to do that. Like we need to, we have to think they have the worst attention spans ever. So, the photos you do have are very beautiful. Even on your About Us page, when I click on that, I see a story, but, and you're further down. Oh gosh, you're so pretty. You just look like an angel on this website. So it's further down. I would almost put that towards the top of the page, because I'm like, oh, this is here. It is here. I just had to really kind of search for it. So making it easy to find that. From a services perspective, love, you have all of your lists there, which is great. You have some photos. So overall, the website really is pretty. I would just really hone in on video content. And if you can get any video reviews, as I've mentioned, 100 times from your clients, get those on your Google My Business. You are going to start seeing a lot more leads. Those things will sell like hotcakes, as well as getting those on the homepage. Even honestly, if you could get like 3 video testimonials from clients who have used you for years, right? You put those right, like when your website loads right under there, I think you're going to immediately start seeing, more leads come in. So yeah, I think that those are super low hanging fruits of like the obvious, like why are leads not coming in? That's the stopgap that's happening right now. And I think if you solve those, it'll like, and then you can waitlist. Like you said, you guys have had a successful go at waitlisting. And I think waitlistings is such a wonderful tool because then you slowly you bring people on then, and you just trickle them a little more work as they prove themselves, right? And things just very gradually get better for you. And my biggest mistake is when I would hire somebody and then I would give them a full schedule, and then they would ghost me and then it would just be the nightmare. So very slowly, like when you hire them, explaining this is a part-time role that can go up to full-time as we see.
Yeah.
So never hiring anybody who needs full-time in the beginning. Like don't even consider them. If you like them, put them on your list. Maybe in a year, you're ready to hire full-time. You're not going to want to do that for a long time. This is going to help you protect yourself from all of the problems. Do those suggestions make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I've heard you say that before and was definitely planning to go that direction. And one of the things I was still debating what to do when we hire is whether we hire 2 people or 4 people. Because like I said, we're trying to put them in pairs because that's how we like to clean and kind of how we know how to train, like to divvy up the work and everything. But I thought, well, if we hire 4 people and half of them fall off, then we still have a team, but then if they all stay,
it's nerve-wracking.
I have to get work for 2 teams. So I'm still trying to figure out, well, what's the best way to go there? But if we only hire 2 people and they both fall off, then we start all over again.
Well, what you could definitely consider starting out with is like preparing to have individual cleaners with the goal of working towards teams. I think that in this situation of, trying to get enough, even if I needed to fill a team, like a part-time team schedule, it's twice as many man hours, right? So that's a lot more pressure is to get 2 people consistent work compared to 1. And also that issue you had where your previous cleaner quit, the other one was like, I didn't sign up for this. That's going to happen. Occasionally you're going to have where it's always going to happen is one person's going to quit at a time, leaving the other, what then? If they are expecting I work as teams, how are you? They're going to be dissatisfied. And then you risk losing that other person because they feel overworked. They're not overworked. They're working the same amount of hours. And, it's frankly, they're used to working on a team. And so it feels like more, even though it's not. You're just giving them less houses. And, I'll let you know, we run individual cleaners, and I know a lot of people love running teams, and there's so many benefits to it. What I'm talking, and I'm not suggesting you not to run teams. I think it's making sure to know or to communicate that sometimes they may have to clean houses by themselves. We as a business run as teams, but it is the expectation that you may sometimes have to individually clean. You just clean half the houses, half the number of houses in a day. So most of our staff, they do 2 houses in a day. And they actually really like cleaning individually because they don't have to deal with anybody else. They're, the accountability is there. But again, there's so many ways to skin the cat of like, how many people do we run? You get some women in a room together and things can go awry. And so we avoid a lot of drama because there's no finger pointing. There's no issues. There's no people getting on each other's nerves because the only time they're working together is on first time cleans or move outs. So it really helps avoid a lot of the issues that we get from frankly, mostly female crew. Not saying that boys can't be horrific too in drama queens, because I've had that as well. But so that could be something you consider of, how do you train them? Well, they all know how to clean the rooms. It's just, what order do we do things in and that type of stuff. So maybe that would be a solution you could explore just in the meantime while you're getting going until you have this kind of established flow, if you will.
That makes sense. I mean, I worked by myself for the first 2 years, and sometimes I liked it, but sometimes it felt so overwhelming too,
Yeah.
to like walk into a house and go, oh,
Have to do
a
the
larger
whole thing.
house.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So when my husband joined me, it was like, oh wow, it feels like such a relief, even though we took on one more house a day. I used to clean 2 by myself, and then we would go up to 3, sometimes 4 if they were smaller. But it would be the same hours in a day, but it would feel like such a relief because it's not all on me. So I just wanted to carry that forward, like,
Yeah. Well, and
and
also
not having
something,
new people feel so overwhelmed, but like
yeah,
I
and you can
had it
always
once.
tag them onto a team, as we meant, like they train with teams and then give them smaller houses and kind of build them up. Sometimes they run a team, sometimes they don't. That can work as well. I mean, that is how we do it. Sometimes they're team cleaning, sometimes they're individual. And I will, note too what you just said of, okay, you guys went from you doing 2 houses a day to doing 3 as a team. That means that individual cleaners are like in that system would be available for 2 each person, but only doing 3. You're missing out on an entire house that day because you're not running individuals, because they both could have done 2 houses or together do 3. That's less money. So that could be something to consider as well. I mean, it also depends, like you says, on the size of the house. We've had some houses where they got 1 house a day because it's a mansion, right? And this is what you're doing today.
Right.
But when we're not paying for travel, that is the most financially profitable situation, is you're in 1 house all day because it's so big, or one facility kind of thing. But just some things to keep in mind that I think being flexible on the expectations, and then they're not going to have this unrealistic expectation when their teammate quits or calls in sick is probably going to be the more likely situation of how do we handle call outs if we run teams? Like, how is that going to happen? So something to consider for sure. So let's see, what other, any other glaring questions that you feel are like, I don't know how to handle this part?
I don't think so. I think that's the core of it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you just, like I've reiterated throughout this conversation, I mean, you guys know cleaning. You are like truly experts at that aspect of it, which puts you in such a leg up compared to so many of our listeners who are just brand new at this in general and trying to hire for the first time and haven't put all this legwork in. So everybody listening, I hope that you guys are inspired by her, because truly, like, and honestly, you guys have been very successful. Like, you have ran a successful cleaning company just without cleaners, like of you guys. So that's pretty amazing. So you should be proud. And I know it's nerve wracking, and but at the same time, you just got to bite the bullet and jump in. You've done so much towing now. It's time to make the jump. And there's got to be great. I know there's good people in Washington, right? To hire. Well, wonderful. I appreciate your time today. This has been really great. And like I said, you need to start getting video content out there for your business, because you're such a calming presence. Like, and your kitty's fabulous too. But like, I think that I would trust you. If I was in the market, I would trust you to handle it. Just, you've got that vibe. And so really utilize like who you are, and you've got something that your competitors don't have, which is your personality and presence. So I bring that to the forefront. Use what you got.
Thank you.
Awesome, Anastasia. We will wrap it up then. Guys, leave a comment of any questions you had. Give her some props for coming on and joining me in this conversation. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode of Filthy Rich Cleaners. Bye-bye.